Hello everyone and welcome to Youth Talk, focusing on issues that make, break, and shake the GTA. I am your host Isaac, and for today we got two special guests with me. First, I would like to introduce Dwight. He is the media relations for Cecil Media. And we have Latanya Grant. She is the founder and chair for the Justice for Jermaine Carby Committee. Near the fall of 2014, there's been a series of incidents that took place in the States with the whole Eric Gardner, there was Mike Brown, and those other incidents that took place in the States where police officers were shooting African Americans without, even though they followed the police lines and did whatever they were supposed to do. But recently, after that, there was an incident that took place in Brampton where a man by the name of Jermaine Carby was shot down even though he had his hands held up and followed the police's instructions. Now, Latoya Grant, she is in fact related to Jermaine Carby. And would you like to talk about the incident that took place there?
Well, what happened September 24th, according to the investigation that I've been doing alongside the SAU, is that my cousin was picked up from a friend at his home, which was by Queen and McMurtry. As they proceeded down Queen and headed over Kennedy, they were pulled over. The reason they were pulled over is still unknown. It had been mentioned on the news that it was a regular traffic routine stop, but as Cam Woolley mentioned, who was the first reporter at the scene, there's no such thing as a regular routine stop. So once they were pulled over, my cousin exited the passenger side of the vehicle, approaching the officers to ask what was going on, and they shot him 4 times. All the witnesses said that he did not have a knife in his hands, and all he was saying was what to the officers, and they proceeded to shoot him. After they shot him, it was a regular civilian that called the ambulance, not the police. When the ambulance came on the scene, or before the ambulance came on the scene, they arrested my cousin's lifeless body. Then when the ambulance came on the scene, they tried to resuscitate him but had no luck. He was then brought to Brampton Civic Hospital where he was pronounced dead at 10:45. The media has spread a lot of rumors about my cousin because he had a past in Vancouver, BC as a drug dealer, which is free for everyone to know. But at the time that they shot Jermaine, he was just a regular black man. Peel Regional Police have a track record of racial profiling. And the reason I know that he was just a regular black man is because the ambulance report and the medical report shows that Jermaine was a John Doe. He did not have ID on him, and it was a nurse who recognized him because he had went to that hospital a couple weeks prior, and she was able to identify him, and that's how my aunt found out that night that her son was murdered. So I got a phone call about 6:45 the next day stating that my cousin was shot by the police, and since then the SIU has been investigating it, as well as myself, and I created the Justice for Jermaine Carby Committee to find out what really happened that night, because the SIU has a 98% clearance rate, and we just don't 100% trust that they're going to make the right decision in regards to charging the officer.
I seen the articles that they wrote about the whole incident, and I seen it also on the news, because usually when I read the article, the similarities that they have is that usually in the articles and in the news, they usually start off talking about the incident, then after that they just talk about like his charges and everything else. Like, why do you feel that is?
I feel what they're trying to do is justify why they shot him because of his past. They're trying to paint a character of my cousin that the people can see and figure that, you know what, he was a criminal, that maybe he deserved it, or maybe that's why they pulled him over. But like I'll reiterate, when they shot him, they did not know he was Jermaine Carby. He was a John Doe. So for them to try to, plaster his past all over the media, the news reports, and the newspapers, it's just to kind of detour people from what really happened and try to sidetrack the media from actually finding out why this officer shot my cousin. And what I find is crazy is that they will not tell us the name of the officer. They still haven't released whether or not they found the knife at the scene, and they will not let us know the name of the driver or where the whereabouts of the driver is. So all this information we still don't have, and it seems kind of suspect to me that they would not give us this information because they know that once we have this information, we can prove that my cousin was innocently shot. He was an unarmed man that they killed unnecessarily, right. And they don't want the police to be held accountable.
Just to expound on what she had just said, though, like I personally feel that between the media and the police, you know, it's just a consistent thing where they're always going out of their way to discredit or just find a way to clean up their mess, you know, because why is it relevant as to how many police interactions somebody had, you know, as long as they weren't convicted or charged, if your intent wasn't to obviously discredit them. You know, they mentioned that Jermaine had about over 100 or approximately 120 interaction with the police. As a young black man who's grown up in this, in the greater Toronto area, I probably have maybe 80 or 90 police interactions. That's just average, you know, and what, again, I have to reiterate the question, like, what is that, an interaction? Like, what constitutes an interaction? Like, just being stopped as a traffic stop? What, when they ask you for ID?
Why do you feel the law tends to back up a police officer more than a civilian, regardless of what the police officer does?
Well, if the police officers start getting exposed, I mean, it's going to be like a domino effect. I mean, if we can't trust one officer, then how do we know we can trust another officer? And I think it's just easier for them to keep it on a hush and protect the officer rather than expose the officer, because then it gets higher than them. Then it goes down to the training and, you know, who are we hiring and what type of knowledge do they need to become an officer? Do they have to know about mental health issues? Are they going through certain training? And it's just too much for them to deal with. That's why I feel it's easier to just protect the officer.
You're the founder and the chair of the Justice for Jermaine Carby Committee. Can you talk a bit about that?
The Justice for Jermaine Carby Committee I've created once my cousin died, because like I said, I wanted to know what really happened. A lot of families are used to the SIU taking control and telling them what happened, but for me, I wanted to know myself. So I built a committee. A friend of mine is the vice chair, and we have a couple other members that have been helping us gather information and, you know, do the little forums or vigils or just be able to tell us what really happened that night, so that once the SIU gives us their report, we can have a report to rebuttal.
Okay, and what is your main mission and goal that you want to achieve from this?
I want the media to know the truth. Whether or not the SIU chooses to charge the officer, I want them to know the truth. We have video coverage, we have witness footages, we have everything, witness statements. We have everything that we need to know right now that proves the officer was guilty. It's now up to the SIU's integrity to charge the officer and do the right thing. So what I want people to know by the end of this is what really happened, and to encourage other families. If this happens to your family member in the future, because Jermaine Carby will not be the last, that you should do your own investigation and don't just believe what the SIU tells you. Because they have a 98% clearance rate, it's obvious that they back their officers.
All right, it's been a pleasure having you on their show. Are there any last things you want to mention before we sign up?
Yes, if you want to follow the Justice for Jermaine Carby Committee, you can join the Facebook page, Justice for Jermaine Carby. You can email me at justiceforjc092414@gmail.com, or you can give me a phone call at 647-625-88JC.
Well, folks, unfortunately, that's all the time we have today for Youth Talk. I am Isaac. On behalf of my guests here today, we're signing off. Stay tuned for next time.